All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It's 1 o'clock now, so I think we're going to get started. So thank you so much for introducing yourself in the chat box while you're. Hold on, guys. Let's try it. All right. We had an interesting little sound tech snafu there. If you guys could just tap in the chat box, yes, if you can hear us. Yes, okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much. My apologies. That was an interesting little tech twist there. All right, just something to point out, when you guys are using the chat box, please make sure you're addressing it to all panelists and attendees. The default is just to panelists, and so that's great. We get to see what you're chatting about, but we would really love this to be an interactive thing where you guys can talk with each other. So just make sure you are addressing everything to all panelists and attendees. All right, just a couple other housekeeping notes. You guys are able to resize and move around the video displays, the PowerPoint display. So if you can't see anything or need to zoom in, that is on you. Just go ahead and use your mouse and you can resize what you're seeing on the screen. You do not have any audio, but please, we'd love to have an active chat. So if you have any questions, comments, or anything to add, hop in the chat. All right, next slide, please. Cool. So we're going to do a really quick facilitator introduction. So I am Claire Ratcliffe. If you have attended any of these StarNet webinars, you may have seen me before with Brooks. He will not be joining us today. He's actually in Argentina on his honeymoon. So we're picking up the slack for him. But I'm one of the education coordinators here at the Space Science Institute.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kelly LeConte. I'm the Professional Development Manager here at the Space Science Institute.
And I'm Paul Dusenberry, also at the Space Science Institute. I'm the director of the National Center for Interactive Learning and also the principal investigator for NASA at my project, NASA at my library, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we do have a guest facilitator here today. So Teresa, if you could, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Teresa Schwerin. I'm here in Arlington, Virginia at the Institute for Global.
Sorry, Teresa, I think you are still on mute.
Uh-oh, how about now? Any better? No? Other people are saying I'm good.
Sorry,
so I'm going to go ahead.
Oh.
I'm here at the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies in Arlington, Virginia, and really glad to be here with you today. I am a librarian by training. I haven't worked in public libraries in quite a while, but that is my roots, and I'm really excited to be working with librarians.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Teresa. Again, that was on our end with the audio, but we have it all sorted out. So thank you everyone in the chat box for stepping in and saying you could hear Teresa. All right, next slide, please. Cool, so just a quick overview of the agenda. So we just went through our welcome and introductions. I'm going to give you a little introduction on our online activity clearinghouse for those of you who aren't familiar with it yet. Then Paul here is going to introduce our Planet Earth campaign, which we're really excited about. So I'm so glad you guys are here to learn more about it. Next, Teresa is going to talk about how we are incorporating citizen science into our campaign and how you can incorporate it into your library programs. I will be then talking about how you can engage teens into the campaign. And finally, it wouldn't be a StarNet webinar without a hands-on activity. So Kellyanne and I are going to demonstrate an activity that can go really well with a campaign, and in addition to your teen programs. Finally, if we have time, we'll open up to a question and answer. Cool, so we're gonna do a quick icebreaker poll question that really has to do with ice. So I'm gonna launch this poll in a minute, but I want you to think about this. So have you ever, and please check all that apply, have you ever slipped on ice, been ice fishing, been ice skating, gotten your tongue stuck on ice? A surprising number of you have had that happen, unfortunately, or all of the above.
Not too many ice. Oh, there's a few ice fishers.
A couple of them.
Yeah.
One of my favorite activities in the winter is ice fishing.
Wow.
All right. I'm going to give you guys about 3 more seconds to submit your answers. Cool. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and end it so you guys can see the results, see where you land. Looks like our top choice there was slipped on ice. I am sure we've all had the displeasure of having the world slip out from underneath us. Lots of ice skaters. And I'm actually surprised at the number that have actually gotten your tongue stuck on ice. It hurts a lot, I'm sure. It's never happened to me personally. So I'm so sorry for all of you who have had to endure that. All right, and we're gonna go on to another poll question here. This one is about Earth Day. So you can go ahead and go to the next one. So this is a little Earth Day trivia question. So how many people in the United States participated in the first Earth Day on April 22nd, 1970? So I'm going to launch that poll so you guys can go ahead and share your results. What do you think? How many people participated in the very first ever Earth Day 50 years ago? Good guess. All right, I think most of you have voted. I'm going to give you about 3 more seconds if you want to change your answer, or those of you thinking about it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the polling, launch the results. You guys can see where you landed. It looks like the majority of you guessed 5,000. So the answer to this one is actually 20 million. So 20 million people participated in the US in 1970. This was a movement that had been had momentum for years and years and years. And finally, when it happened, after we had rivers on fire, people were fired up about this in the 1970s. So 20 million people participated. Today, so in 2019, about 1 billion people participated, and this was all over the world. Earth Day has turned into a global thing with over 190 countries participating. So that's why we want you guys to be a part of that. It's all over the world. We have 1 billion people participating, and your library could be a part of those people celebrating our beautiful planet Earth. So thank you for participating, and we're going to move on to the next slide. So you may be familiar, but those of you who aren't, we curate an online STEM activity clearinghouse. We have about 430 hands-on activities. Greg, if you wouldn't mind dropping the link bank into the chat box. The link bank has the link to our clearinghouse. So this is a really great way to find activities. You can sort it for age groups, for timing of programs, for different categories. So if you want to do an engineering activity, or if you want to do something about Earth, we have activities in there for you. We just put up our new Our Planet Earth collection. It has tons of activities. We're going to be demonstrating one today, but activities for all ages that can really engage people in learning about our planet and getting engaged with Our Planet Earth campaign. So definitely check it out.
Claire, we have a question. Nicole's asking about the number out of the US that participated out of that billion.
That's a really good question, Nicole. I got this information from earthday.org. They would have that information for you. So I'm going to drop that in the chat box, earthday.org. That's a great question. I'm not sure off the top of my head, though. Thanks, Claire. Yeah. Okay, so to take it away now, I'm going to hand it over to Paul to tell you about what this campaign is and how you can get involved.
I just wanted to mention that, and hi everyone, this is a real pleasure for me to talk to you a little bit about this campaign. But the 20 million people that participated in the very first one actually led to the formation of the Environmental Protection Agency 2 years later. So people can have power, if they band together and they work together. And this particular campaign here is something that I've been thinking about for a while, and this is the perfect year to do it. I'll show you that in just a moment, but it's a national campaign, and we think that libraries and all their communities will be really excited to participate in it. I just do want to mention that this is sponsored through NASA, through StarNet's NASA at My Library program, which is managed by the Space Science Institute. And we have a lot of great colleagues with us and partners, including Teresa's program and her institution as well, that you'll be hearing about in a little bit later. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the next slide, I think. Tells you a little bit about why now? No, the one before that, you went too fast. So why now? So this is sort of answering that question. Why are we doing this? So there's three amazing convergences, I guess, for this particular one. The first one is it's Citizen Science Month in April. And so that's you know, they used to have a Citizen Science Day, but now they decided they're going to be going to a month-long celebration of citizen science. So that's really cool. This obviously, this is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, because it was back in 1970 that the first one happened that you just mentioned. So this is like 50 years later in April. So we're at the 50th anniversary. So that's really cool. And then I wanted to just inform everyone and just let everyone know that ALA about a year ago actually created and adopted a new core value of librarianship that actually has environmental sustainability as a big important piece of it. In fact, this is a very strange core value adoption, because they actually reference the IPCC studies and all of these other climate change studies as part of it. So they are thinking about you know, our future as well, and libraries need to be thinking about that on the local level too. Okay, the next slide, I think, tells you a little bit about what our goals are. So we really want to provide a lot of great resources that you can use to you know, really develop your own tailored environmental program for your community. And I think that Clearinghouse is a great start, you know.
Definitely.
And there's many other, oh my gosh, there's so many websites and other things you can draw from, but do look at that Clearinghouse and do look at some of the resources that you can connect to from our Planet Earth campaign website. There's a lot of citizen science opportunities, and Teresa's going to talk about some. Go again on that website, you'll be able to link into some quite a few others. Build lasting collaborations around environmental sustainability, both within the library community and beyond. And I'm really thinking about national organizations that would want to partner with us to help, you know, on a national level, but also you looking at your own community or within your own community can really form some lasting partnerships there that can really benefit, you know, your environment as well. So the next one, I think we're toward the end here. Maybe that's, I think you're going to talk a little bit about how to register, but we would like to have all of you, if you haven't registered, Claire is going to tell you a little bit about what you get as part of your registration, but we would love to have you part of our map. I believe that we're over 600 registered libraries currently, and so that's really cool. We have a goal for trying to get to 1,000. And so let's all work together. And if you have colleagues in your library field that you know about and they haven't registered, please let them know. But there's the address that you can go to. And maybe in the, is that, oh.
Yep, yeah, that link is in the link bank that Greg, who is, I'm so sorry, I forgot to introduce Greg. Greg is also facilitating from afar. He will be kind of monitoring the chat box and dropping these really important links in there, but the registration link is in the link bank.
Nice.
And when you register, you will have access to our Facebook page. You'll get all kinds of goodies, like we just created a Planets to Planets game that's really fun. It's modeled off of the game Apples to Apples, but it has all to do with astronomy. It's super fun. We've played it here, tons of laughs, but you will get that in your registration, as well as some tactile Earth books from NASA, some Scholastic books, all kinds of things that will be sent to your library for participating. So definitely check it out and pass this information on to other libraries that you think might be interested in really getting involved this year to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day.
And Claire, I just wanted to also mention that we're planning to do this annually.
Yes.
So we don't think that Earth, you know, we can't just kind of do a celebration and then we go on to something else. We feel that our planet deserves an annual look and focus and celebration of what's working and what's not. And, you know, to me, that kind of party, if you will, that brings communities together is really important. And we feel this topic will do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
As part of the Our Planet Earth campaign, and you can go to the next slide. Actually, do you want to say a little bit about this?
Yeah, I just thought this is so wonderful. This was actually part of our Summer of Space and our Universe of Stories campaign last summer. And this was a natural, let's see, a park ranger who had a whole bunch of his friends around, or her friends around, and they were just talking about things that were in the park and encouraging kids to go to the park and experience that kind of out of doors, you know, adventure, if you will. And there's so many things like that you can do for Earth Day. There's citizen science programs that you can do. There's all sorts of other kinds of things that you can have weather people come in and talk about, you know, what's the weather forecast going to look like over the next couple of years, and anything that you want to do, you know, under the Earth umbrella, if you will, is fair game. So that is just a cute picture.
Yeah. So as part of the Planet Earth campaign, we are asking libraries, and this is optional, but we're really trying to get libraries involved with community dialogues. If you're not familiar with community dialogues, it's something that our colleague Anne has developed. And on that link bank, we actually have a link to the guide that makes it very straightforward, breaks down how to do it. But basically, it's informal conversations with community stakeholders, leaders, and members. It's you guys being the community hub and inviting those stakeholders to your library, or maybe having the conversation elsewhere, but just having this conversation with the people in your community about what is important to them and how you as a community can make those things happen. It encourages libraries to reach out to new partners and to consider how to better reach underserved audiences in particular, how to better meet your patrons where they are. This is a framework that is new. It is continuously evolving. And so the more libraries that get involved with this and give us feedback, the better we can create this framework for everybody.
Absolutely wonderful.
And just so you know, as an incentive, the first 500 libraries who commit to doing a community dialogue will receive our Arctic to Antarctic game. And I spelled that wrong up there, but it's a really fun game that we've developed. This will be exclusively sent out to only those libraries that commit to doing a community dialogue. If this is something that is interesting to you, if you want to figure out new ways to reach out to your community members, and especially to really find ways to better serve your underserved audiences, please check out one of these webinars. So starting on Tuesday, March 10th, we'll have a series of webinars. You only have to go to one, they're the same one, but basically we'll really dig into what a community dialogue is, how to do it at your library, how we can support you in doing it. And of course, you can learn about this really awesome game that comes with being involved with the community dialogues.
Is it limited?
Yeah, so each of these webinars, we are going to limit it to 30 people.
Okay,
so that way your mics will be on. You can ask questions, you can get involved. So sign up for whichever one meets your schedule, but sign up quickly because we will limit each one to 30 people. Awesome. Okay, so thank you guys. I hope you have a little bit of a better understanding of our Planet Earth campaign. And as Paul said, April is also Citizen Science Month. So we're really trying to mesh these two things. If you had attended our previous Citizen Science webinar a few months ago, that was great. That was all about using SciStarter. But now we have invited Teresa to tell you about another great resource that you can use if you want to bring citizen science into your library. So I'm going to stop sharing our screen here and turn it over to Teresa to tell you about how you can get involved with citizen science.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, let me share my screen. And you should just be seeing my slide. Okay, so I'm the lead for the NASA Earth Science Education Collaborative, and this is a partnership between my organization and the Earth Sciences at 3 NASA centers: NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, NASA Langley Research Center, and Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And as part of this project, we are engaging the public in NASA science, and we're doing this through what's called citizen science, which is very simply a person who volunteers with science research. You may have heard it called volunteer science or crowdsourcing science. Those all mean the same thing. For example, by making and recording observations. This cartoon panel is from a little booklet called Zika Zine, the story of 3 Aedes mosquitoes and the Zika within them. You've got the link there. It's a great little story that goes with the citizen science project called the Mosquito Habitat Mapper. And so the way we're doing that, one such program, is called Globe Observer. And this is part of the International Globe Program, which is sponsored by NASA, the National Science Foundation, NOAA, and the US Department of State support it. And its program, it just turned 25 this year. They're celebrating their 25th anniversary during the month that we're also celebrating the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. There are 122 countries that are part of Globe. And it started as a K-12 science and education program for K-12 schools. And in 2016, we worked to extend this to lifelong learners, to the public, through Globe Observer, free mobile app that you can download, and using your smartphone or a smart tablet, use the built-in tutorials that are in the app to learn how to take the observations and use your device's sensors and capabilities like the camera in your smartphone to take observations that can complement or be comparative data for NASA Earth Science satellite data. And I'll show you an example here. The 4 tools are clouds. So looking at clouds, looking up at clouds from the ground while the satellite is looking down at clouds. And that gives a different perspective, gives a more complete picture of the sky. And you see here a citizen science observation photo of the clouds. And they looked at what kind of clouds, the amount of sky covered by clouds, the color of the sky, how clear the sky is. And that gives a different perspective than the satellite looking down. And many times things like snow and ice can look like clouds. So it helps to give a more complete picture. And on the right there, land cover is another observation. So taking photographs of the landscape. And if you want to go further, to classify what's on the land surface and compare that to the satellite image and note any differences. But you can see the NASA satellite image and the resolution for that global image. The observation from the citizen scientist brings in much finer resolution to help fill in the gaps. So a pixel on one of these satellite images might be as much as 100 square meters versus a citizen scientist on the ground taking observation that's 50 to 100 meters resolution. So it helps to fill in those gaps. And one of the newest tools that we have is the trees tool. I'm really excited about this. This is one of our newest tools, and it's one that we have a challenge during the month of April that I'll be telling you about. But it's one that I think for libraries in particular, it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of your programming, and it's something that people have a personal connection to. So I'm going to share a very short video, 1-minute video, that'll walk you through trees. Okay. Whoop. Started again. So this is a very simple observation. The height of a tree, which is a local observation, something people locally would be interested in, that really tells a lot about the health of an ecosystem. It's also something that scientists, it helps to fill in, will help to fill in how carbon moves through the Earth's system. So that's something very simple that can help to support global NASA science. And all of the observations that are taken by citizen scientists are open source, freely available, uploaded to the cloud when you submit your observations. And the screen you're seeing here is from the Globe Data Visualization System. So you can see not only your data, but everyone's data that's submitted. And so if you click on one of these are all tree observations on the screen. If you click on one of those, it opens up a box. You can see a photo of the tree. You can see the observations, how tall the tree is. This particular tree in South Africa is 26.74 meters, so almost 100-foot tall tree. So we depend on partners like our StarNet library network to help us to engage the public and to engage citizen scientists. And so one of the things that we developed is a toolkit for informal educators. This is linked to from the StarNet Clearinghouse. If you go into, it's one of the featured activities. So there are toolkits for each of those tools, for clouds, for mosquito habitat mapper, for land cover, and for trees. And you'll find hands-on activities, games, resources like that video that I showed, that 1-minute video, FAQs, typical questions you might get from the public, and activities that help to build the content knowledge and the skills to do the citizen science observations. So the link is there, observer.globe.gov/toolkit, but this is also linked to from the StarNet Clearinghouse. And so we worked with StarNet to recruit some libraries from the StarNet network to help us field test these activities. And so you'll see a map of the libraries that we worked with in 2019, in spring and summer of 2019. We had 8 partner libraries we've been working with. We selected them based on getting geographic representation across as much as possible across the country, diversity in terms of the audiences that they serve. We had rural, urban, suburban libraries, people who were offering programs across broad groups. So from families to children to teens to seniors and adults. We really wanted to get a broad spectrum of libraries who are offering programs for different audiences to test out these activities. So we got some great feedback. We've been incorporating these into the activities in general. We found people found them fairly easy to use. We asked about their ease of preparing to use these activities and programs, how useful they found them, how they use them in programs, how they put things together, what kinds of programs, and got a really rich set of data that we are folding into our programs, and really glad to share with other libraries. So here's a picture showing some of the programs. They, like I mentioned, there were things for families, for kids, typical programs like story time to nature walks. Yeah, libraries, as you know, are doing all kinds of great things to engage the public in science and really serving as community hubs. And so we've had great relationship working with these libraries. And just wanted to share about our challenge coming up in April. We have a tree challenge, make every tree count during April, and we hope that you will become a part of our network of libraries that are doing trees-related programming in April. This is in celebration of the Globe program's 25th anniversary and the Earth Day 50th anniversary. And we're asking people to measure the height of many different trees as possible using the trees tool in the Globe Observer app. And so we're looking for individuals, schools, libraries, registered teams. And at the end of April, the individual school or team that measure the most trees will be recognized as the top observers. We had a webinar yesterday, a 90-minute webinar, and we have a facilitator's guide to support libraries and other informal educators. The link is there. It's a really rich 90-minute webinar. We have it chunked into chunks. We have the scientists talking about their science and why they want this data, how to create teams, how to manage teams, what activities we have. And we had one of our library partners talked about her programming with trees. So this is just a screenshot of the website. So when you go to the website and you go to Do Globe, under challenges, there's a Trees Challenge 2020, and this is the main page. The next page is a facilitator's guide. It's got lots of rich information, planning timeline, 2 months out. This is great timing now to start your planning and all the things that you can do to get ready for a program based on trees and citizen science. There are timeline and some important dates, some dates you might want to be aware of and think about as you're planning your programs. There's National Go on a Walk Day on April 1. There's World Health Day on April 7th, as well as the 50th, official 50th Earth Day on April 22nd, and Globe's 25th anniversary, Arbor Days during April. Lots of stuff happening in April. The census, libraries are very involved in that. So you might want to promote to your patrons that in America, we're not only counting trees or are interested in counting people, but NASA is interested in counting trees. And so we've got lots of promotional resources that you can customize in print, download, customize in print, a poster, flyers, facilitator's guide. And so here is a photo from the Los Angeles Public Library, is one of our partner libraries. And this is showing a print and make paper clinometer. So you can take a measurement of a tree using the app, and you can compare that with a paper clinometer that you print it out, you tape a straw, you have a string with a weight, and as the librarian is demonstrating, holding it up, and you can calculate the tree height using the clinometer and compare that to the observations in the app. LaSalle Public Library is a small rural library in Illinois, one of our partner libraries, and they've developed some STEAM activities and programming related to trees. And Brittany Blomquist was one of our panelists on our webinar yesterday, and we've got a video of her talking about STEAM programming, and doing a nature walk, taking the app, taking the observations along the trail. You can invite a local naturalist or someone from an extension department if you want a science expert to help identify trees along the way. But to do things like create Fandex cards with tree rubbings and leaves and documenting those trees. The middle top picture there are gratitude rocks, and she's got a great video talking about how she uses gratitude rocks in programming. So the rock includes a painting, so artistic representation of the tree, the latitude and longitude from the app. She puts the social media account, like a hashtag or Facebook group. So, and then they leave these and people find them, go online, and they can track where these rocks end up. So, give it a listen. It's a great video. We have a couple of blog posts that Brittany wrote for the StarNet blogs on tree programming that we hope you'll check out. And as you're doing your programming, I mentioned the promotional materials. One thing you can do that help to track the metrics of your program is to create a team. And it's an individual and a team challenge. People can join as many teams as they want, and their observations count towards all of their teams. So this particular team, the Colorado Cloudsters, they only have 2 members. You can have as many or as few members to your team as you want. I've taken over 200 observations, so they're very active. But what I like about the team capability, you see a map with all the data locations. So you share your referral code and team name with your patrons, and the poster on the right is a poster that you can customize with your team name and referral code. And you can see how your citizen science program grows beyond your library program. So if people go home and take additional observations, you can see that. So it's a nice little metric to see how your program is growing. And your patrons can create their own teams as well from their neighborhood or their family. So it's a nice little flexible tool that you can use. Some tips for setting up teams. If you do set up multiple teams, try starting each team name with the same string. This example, the Scouts Australia name, is based on an actual, in Australia, the Scouts of Australia set up a challenge for all of their scout troops, and each scout troop had an individual team, and they were taking land cover observations. And now those observations, sadly, are being used to document changes because of the wildfires in Australia. So it's data that can be used for that. If you do set up a team, you can keep your team public or private. Even if it's a private team, people will see the team map on the website. They just can't join the team unless they have the referral code. And that'll help you to use it as an engagement tool. You can use the poster we showed or the handouts to distribute your team name or referral code. And after you create a team, also important, register with us to participate in the challenge. So on the observer.globe.gov trees-2020 challenge site is where you would register your team. So I'm just going to close with, I have all of the links that I talked about. So check it out, and we would love to see lots and lots of libraries participating. And so I will stop now, and I don't know if there are any questions in the chat, but I will stop sharing so I can say. Great. Oh, I can't hear you guys.
So sorry. Can you hear us now, Teresa?
I can.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Right now, there are not any questions,
Okay.
but you explained that really nicely. But yeah, if anyone does have any questions or comments or thoughts about how this could look in their library, because I know every library community is so different, we'd love to hear what you guys are thinking in the chat box. So we're going to jump back on and share our screen and continue. But yeah, just great ways to get involved with citizen science. And it's so important because there's so much data to be collected out there. And when we involve our community, we can get so much more done than, one graduate student can when they're working on these research projects. So you being involved with this will really help advance science in so many different ways. So yeah, thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Teresa. That was wonderful.
Right. And so we're going to shift a little bit. So when thinking about citizen science and thinking about engaging your library in Earth Day, a big thought that kept coming to my mind was how this is a great opportunity to engage your teens. So why teens? I just keep coming back to, when I'm thinking about Greta and the movement that she has helped, and, all of the ways teens are getting involved in climate change and action. They have this passion and this energy. They are optimistic. They're not yet jaded by the world. They want to see positive change in the world. They're determined. They have creativity. They're intelligent. You can talk about difficult subjects that maybe aren't developmentally appropriate for a first grader. It's really scary when you're young to hear about Australia on fire or the Amazon rainforest getting cut down. So those are topics you can't really get into with younger kids, but with teens, they have the mental capacity and emotional capacity to start to really delve into these problems. They're flexible. They are aware of diverse viewpoints. So they know what's going on in the world. For better or worse, social media has brought news and it brought attention to a lot of the things happening in the world, and our teens are aware of it. So this is a great way to just go off of that energy and engage our teens. I do want to say I have a special thanks to Erin Hoops from the Free Library of Philadelphia. I spoke with her. She gave a really great presentation at YALSA about doing teen-led programming, specifically in civic engagement. So I had a long conversation with her about the successes she's had in getting teens involved in advocacy. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about in the next few slides come from her and her library. So I just had to, give credit where credit is due. So teens are at a point in their development where a lot of things can happen, and libraries can be a place where you help to build blocks of healthy development for teens. So from the Search Institute, they did a lot of research on external and internal assets that teens are developing. And there are 40 in particular that if a teen gets these, if they get them from the external sources and they can build these assets inside themselves, they're less likely to engage in risky behavior. So libraries are a place where they can do this. I just pulled a couple of the 40, and if you want to look into more of that research, it is on the link bank. But I'm just going to touch on a few that correlate directly with what we're doing with the Planet Earth campaign and getting teens involved. So external things. So things that help them develop these positive assets are having a community that values youth, having a community that uses youth as resources. So if they can feel that they are important and that they have roles in their community, they can start to build the positive internal assets. Another big one is giving them opportunities to have service to others. A big part of feeling important and in feeling like you're a part of a community is by engaging in service. And another one is safety. Libraries are a safe place where teens can go after school. I know this very well because I used to be a teen program director at a Boys and Girls Club. And as they got older, the 16, 17-year-olds just stopped coming. And I would ask them, where are you guys going? Where are you hanging out after school? And they said, the library. It's a place where they can go and be themselves. It's a place where they're not expected to do schoolwork or activities. They can just go and have fun. And they started developing a lot of community in this safe place, which is the library. From these external assets, they start to build internal assets that, again, will keep them from engaging in risky behavior. So it helps them to become more caring. It helps them to get excited about equality and social and environmental justice. I mean, we see this in the news every day with how teens are rallying around. They don't feel like the adults or the decision makers are making the right decision when it comes to climate change. So they're starting to take it into their own hands. So this is a way for you to give them that opportunity to feel empowered. It can help them build integrity, responsibility, and really develop their planning and decision-making skills. So I really encourage you to think about how you can involve teens in your Earth Day celebrations. So in talking with Erin Hoops, and I wanted to see how was she so successful in year after year, she's coming out in newspaper articles about how she's rallying the teens and they're taking action to make Philadelphia a better place. So she shared with me a framework that she uses, and I wanted to share it with you guys in case this could be helpful to you. So it's called, there are 5 stages to action and getting your teens involved in doing something for their community. So the first step is just identifying the problem. Talk to them. If you have a teen advisory board, start having this discussion. What issues matter most to you? So this is just a sample question you can use, but what do you believe are some of the most serious environmental problems present in our community? They're going to have ideas, but really make it teen driven. Don't just go and tell them, we're going to be doing this thing. See what is important to them and identify a problem. The next step is brainstorming and really thinking big. So what do you wish you could do if we had all the power and resources in the world? Just start to hear their ideas. Let them think big, write down their ideas, and just really get those wheels turning in their heads. Step 3, you do have to come back down to reality. So get them excited and then step 3 is really a consensus building part. So given your resources and range of ideas that you brainstormed, what is the most realistic goal you can accomplish at your library with the resources that you have? So from all the different ideas they come up with, look at them, celebrate their creativity and their caringness, and then narrow it down to one topic that you can then take real action on. And then step 4, once you've narrowed down to that topic, make a plan, take action. You know, what are the steps we need to take to achieve our goal? Make sure they're involved. And, you know, whether that's through, you know, writing letters to someone in politics or using one of the awesome toolkits from Globe that Teresa just presented on, take some steps and do it and get them out there and empowered. And finally, evaluate. So once you have gone through that framework, once you have your teens involved, you've done something, you know, you've gone out and you've collected data and submitted it to Globe, or you've fundraised for a cause that they really care about, bring them back together when it's done and sit down and talk about what was the impact that we had on our community? Who did we impact? And how can we sustain this over time? Is this a one and done thing, or can we keep doing this maybe every Earth Day, or maybe every summer, you know, whatever works best for your community. I will say this is something that Erin, she works on really hard, and she said it does take time. You know, this is something that doesn't happen in one program. This is something that can happen over the course of weeks or months. So I really encourage you, if you want to get your teens involved this April, start now. You know, get together with your teen advisory board and see if this is something they'd be interested in, and help them, you know, be that space for them to become empowered and not feel so helpless when things can seem so scary right now. So just wanted to share that. And I would love to hear from you guys. If any of you have involved teens or seen teens at your libraries get engaged in a civic or environmental action, what did it look like? You know, and if you have any suggestions or things that worked for you or didn't work for you, we'd love to hear from you. I reached out to Erin because as we work with libraries, but I'm not a librarian. I want to make sure, I want to see what you guys are doing on the ground and share out the positive stuff with everybody. So take a moment to think about it. And I'd love to hear from you guys if you have any thoughts. Awesome. So we have a comment here. With all the studies coming out about how Indigenous sovereignty is essentially the only way we may be able to scavenge even a portion of our planet's well-being, what aspects of these programs are based on Indigenous education, and how are we uplifting our Indigenous siblings to teach? That's a really great question. In terms of that framework that I got from Erin, I am not familiar with how much that was being taken into consideration, but that's a really, really good point. And I think that's something that we should always keep on the forefront. I do know that in some of the examples she gave me with how she used that framework, things like social justice came up a lot as issues that were concerning to teens. You know, and equity and inclusion, those things came up a lot when they were just brainstorming those ideas of when you reach out to someone and you're like, what matters to you? These are things that our teens are aware of and talking about. So
yeah, I also wanted to see if Teresa, do you have any response or resources? And also, is there anyone else on the chat who has an idea of how we might, as you say, Jacqueline, be really inviting that kind of conversation and lifting up the Indigenous perspective so that we're having the best dialogues that we can possibly have around this important issue.
Always an important thing to keep on the forefront of our mind. And yeah, if anyone does have any thoughts about how they've addressed this, we also did have a grappling with unconscious biases webinar just in January, just last month. And the recording of that is on our StarNet webpage. So it touches into a little bit about how to just, be very mindful in diversity and inclusion, and making sure we're not just, telling people what we think is best for them, but inviting everyone's voice to the table. So thank you for bringing that up. I think since we have 10 minutes, we're going to move on to our final part of the webinar, but please, if you guys have other ideas of how to include teens, of how to be more inclusive while we celebrate Earth, the chat box is there, and we love hearing from you guys. So we wanted to share this really fun hands-on game. This is it's developmentally very appropriate for teens. I would say it deals with a lot of heavier topics in terms of how our actions affect the environment, which for younger, 5th grade and younger might be a little too much, but this could be a really fun, lighthearted way to get those bigger topics started. So kind of like an icebreaker game, but and it invites the teens into these dialogues, but in a lighthearted way. It connects to the everyday, so it has information about, even behavior we do every day, whether you choose to ride your bike to school or whether you choose to drive in a car to school. What impacts does that have on the environment? So it really is connecting to the teens' everyday life. And it provides tips for taking action so that we don't feel so powerless. We're empowering ourselves to try to take positive action. All right, so we're going to switch the camera really quick. It's a board game that you can print out. So it's really easy, free materials. And I'm going to hand it over to Kellyanne to kind of explain what's going on here.
We're going to just give you a little bit of a tour. There's a lot of resources about this particular game, as Claire mentioned, that you can make this very much on your own, very low cost. So we don't want to, we are leaving you with very detailed rules of the game. And we just wanted to give you a sense of how in the world you could start this up, even though you probably have to refer to the rules a few times, like with any board game. You want to make sure you kind of go back to those rules to make sure you have the steps correctly. But let's give you a sample of how this goes. First of all, the board is just printed out on a large sheet of paper. And then we have these pieces here in the middle, which are to represent ice flows in the Arctic Ocean. And those ice flows are really critical as habitat for polar bears. And so we've got a little polar bear printed on paper. One tip from one of the library staff members who helped develop this activity several years ago, she just suggested take the two sides of printed paper and then take them together and fold the little flaps out on each side so that it stands really easily and very, very low cost, as Claire mentioned. So we've got this polar bear in the center, and we are playing this game so that we can go ahead and save that polar bear if we all work together and follow actions that help us together win the game. So Claire and I are going to do our own strategies here. We'll see if we're a collaborative team or if we are going to just have our own way, and that poor polar bear is not going to have any spaces left from which to hunt. And I'm going to just give you a sense that in the setup here, you are given also a couple animals here as options. These are all Arctic creatures that live in the northern hemisphere in the polar regions. So I've got a beluga, and
I chose an Arctic fox as my game piece.
And I wanted to just give you a sense of like what it would be like if my beluga, in rolling a die, managed to get to this echo blooper right here. And at the beginning of the game here, I've got 4 of these green points cards, and they're just kind of like cash that I can use for my strategy in playing the game. It's got things like you only spent 10 minutes in the shower instead of 20. You saved water, reduced the energy it takes to heat the water, and cut the CO2 you produced by showering by 50%. So nice little tip embedded in this sort of cache that I have at my disposal. A couple other strategies that I have at play here as a player. I can, when I land on an echo blooper card here, and I can see I have to pay 10,000 points. So I can either give up one of these cards and lose some of my cash, or I can take one of the ice flows from the polar bear as a consequence here for my echo blooper. Or at 2 times during the game, I also have the option to go back 5 squares, but you have to have 5 squares to work with. So hence that only starts to work only about here in the game. And I have to really decide which strategy I want to do. And as Claire and I play, we each have those different tools to be able to go forward. So Claire, why don't you I'm going to go ahead and I already read you all this green points card. So I'm going to say I used that. And that's how I got past my echo blooper. That's your turn.
All right. So I'm going to roll the die. I have 4. So I take my little character. I go 1, 2, 3, 4. I landed on a square called Eco Fact. So now I get to read to the group one eco fact. So I'll read it to you all. Unplug. Unplugging computers, TVs, and other electronics can cut their electrical draw by almost 15%. All right. So lucky for me, I did not land on a blooper, so I don't have to either spend cash, take away the polar bear's habitat, or move backwards. And that is my turn.
Exactly. Let's say we kind of fast forward through the game a little bit, and we're going to keep our pieces. They just keep moving around the board here. And here we're gonna pause here at the safety polar bear. And say in the process, we've had to spend down some of our green points, and we might have had to choose. I don't know that Claire, I have the willpower to choose to take some ice flows away from the bear, really. But say we had to reduce some of these here. And the idea being that once you're here at that finish line, your players are in play here and they get all the way to this finish line. The idea here is how it comes to be a collaborative game is that we all can win only if there's at least one ice flow for this polar bear. If we have sacrificed all of the ice flows, it doesn't matter how many points we have, how much cash we have, we all lose the game. So as we're playing through this, we're making those choices. And say at the end of the game, I've got some green points and I've had to take some ice flows. I would tally up the number of green points and say Claire's got some and I've got some, and I'm horrible. I took 4 of these ice flows and now I've got to add up 10,000 points for each of these ice flows and subtract it from my total. So in the end, these cost me something. Maybe I made it to the finish line, but I have to pay up because of these ice flows. So in that end, we kind of come up to, we tally it out and see, did we win, did we lose, and who came out ahead with their amount of green points. I hope this gives you a little bit of a sense. I'll drop the video in the link bank as well, so it can give you a little bit more of a rundown of how the game works. And we'd love to see if this works for you and your teams. And if it does, if you do try it out, please post, however it goes, post on the Clearinghouse as a review so we can all know better how to use experiences like this to spark these kinds of conversations.
Awesome. Yep, as Kellyanne said, there's a really great how-to video on the Clearinghouse for this activity. It's a lot of fun, and like I said, a fun way to just start having a little bit harder conversations and getting your teens or adults, this could be a great adult game too, just working together. All right, well, that is all we have for you guys today. We have about 1 minute left, so we're gonna open it up to any questions or comments that you guys have. So a big thank you to Teresa for spending her time to share those amazing resources. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact me or Brooks. Both of our contact information is on the link bank. When you exit out, you will be directed to a survey. We'd love if you guys could give us some feedback. And at the end of that survey, it will give you a certificate of attendance. Greg, wouldn't you mind dropping the certificate of attendance if for some reason you don't have time to do the survey and still want that certificate of attendance? We'll have Greg just drop it in the link in the chat box there so you guys can have that. But thank you so much for joining us, and happy Earth Day.
Happy celebrations. Good luck, everyone.
Good question, Jennifer. We can print out the board game off the StarNet website. Yes. So when you click into the activity link, it'll have all of the pieces, all of the board game, and how to print it. One tip, I didn't do this today since this is a one-off, but you can print it maybe on cardstock, and that way it'll just be a little more durable if you have a lot of people using it. But yeah, all the materials are there that you just print from our activity guide.
Absolutely.
Stick around for a few more seconds and laminate. Yes, that is
Absolutely.
important. All right, I think that's it. Thanks, guys. Goodbye.
Take care.
Good. Someone signed up for Globe. Yay, Kimberly.